Hello and welcome to another Jet Fuel video slash podcast. You can find us both on YouTube and on SoundCloud or iTunes. I am Matt Barbato of New York Jet Fuel, nyjetfuel.com, joined today by only one co-pilot, Adam Zielonka. We'll have plenty of day 3 draft content for you on this Saturday. But first, we wanted to recap day 2. Once again, the NFL draft went till midnight Eastern last night. It seems like they can never just get in and get out. You know, it's always got to be dragged out. So we decided to get some extra sleep and not do a video yesterday. We're going to do that today. Pretty interesting day for the Jets. I don't think anybody would have predicted them to take another safety in the second round, and that's exactly what they did at number 39 with Marcus May. They ultimately traded back from number 70 to 79 in the third round to take Alabama wide receiver Ardarius Stewart. And then if you were waiting all day anxiously for the Jets to make their final pick of the third round and cap the third round because they actually possessed the last pick, you were sorely disappointed as they traded out. So let's go in order here. We had Max Marcilla did an outstanding job on coverage yesterday. He was pretty much the guy. He wrote the breaking news story for Marcus May. He also graded the pick, and he gave it a B-. So I'll ask you, Adam, what grade do you give this pick of Florida safety Marcus May?
I'm pretty much in the same range of a B- or C+ on Marcus May. Nothing against the prospect himself for starters, although when you look a little closer, he's not flawless, but I was incredibly surprised that the Jets decided to double down on safety back-to-back in the first 2 rounds when the team had an incredible number of needs across the board. To focus on safety when you still technically have 2 starters in Calvin Pryor and Marcus Gilchrist under contract for 2017, it tells me that they're really thinking for the future and that they probably didn't like a ton of prospects that were on the board in the middle of the second. Some guys that could have used like at edge rusher or at offensive line were drafted a few picks ahead of the Jets. So you can't fault them there. But May gave up 10 touchdowns while he was at Florida, which is where he played his college ball. And when you're a safety and you're in the back there, especially if you're in the sort of the free safety position, a la Gilchrist spot, you're giving up 10 touchdowns even over a couple of years. That's a lot. And it makes me doubt a little bit his coverage skills.
Yeah, I'll admit, we did not focus much on Marcus May in our Future Jets series, so that's a bit of, I guess you can't really predict it, but a bit of oversight on our part. We probably should have scouted him. So I didn't really get a good look at Marcus May until later last night. And what I saw, I was relatively impressed. I mean, he played in the box as a box safety on about 40-50% of the snaps I watched. He is a tremendous open field tackler, and he will stick you in the running game. I mean, he's very good at coming up, reading the play, filling, and helping and run support. That's probably the best part of his game. Didn't see him really get exposed much in coverage, but I also didn't see him get targeted a whole lot in the games I watched. But you know what? I mean, he's a ball hawk in the sense that he knows how to get the ball out of people's hands. I mean, he forced 7 fumbles during his Gators career. He's a physical. I'd liken him to a physical hammer. The guy hits you, he'll stick you, and he's not afraid to go in and make an open field tackle and make you pay for running in his path. That's what I like about him. I think the difference between him and a Calvin Pryor is I think Marcus May is a little bit more athletic. And I think that athleticism bodes well for his development as a cover player. But, the Jets did draft 2 safeties who are more known for their ability to play in the box than in coverage. And I know you got to be careful with Jamal Adams because he doesn't appreciate that description, but it's true. I mean, but Jamal Adams is a better cover player than Marcus May is, so he'll be put in more coverage situations, obviously. What's interesting is, these picks made it seem like Calvin Pryor was essentially gone. And if you listen to Todd Bowles and Mike McGagnon speak late Friday night, you didn't really get that indication. And here's a quote from one of Max's stories last night you can find on nyjetfuel.com. This is Bowles when asked, what do these picks mean for Calvin Pryor's future? Here's his quote: "We have a bunch of packages where we play three safeties at one time, or we'd like to," Bowles said. "We didn't have the luxury last year, but we have that in our packages." So, I mean, we didn't see a lot of three safety looks because the Jets, outside of Pryor, Marcus Gilchrist, and Rontez Miles, they didn't really have much talent to merit that package. But I found that interesting that it doesn't seem like the Jets are throwing in the towel on Calvin Pryor, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't offer his fifth-year option.
Yeah, that deadline is coming up this week. I believe it's Wednesday on whether or not to pick up his fifth-year option on his rookie deal. And I agree with you that even though we thought that these draft picks sort of spelled the end of Calvin Pryor's tenure in New York, Coach Bowles sounded very optimistic about using a collection of safeties at once, more than two people who may be labeled safety on the roster. We have to remember that when Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator in Arizona Cardinals, he essentially created this hybrid position for a man named Deion Buchanan, where he sort of floated between safety and inside linebacker to be sort of a ball hawk. You have somebody who can run up and contribute an extra man in the box to stop the run, or float around or spy the quarterback and do a lot of different things. And it makes me wonder if we're sort of headed toward a defensive scheme that is more positionless, where you just stick the guys where they fit best. Where you're going to cover him today, and then that corner will have different assignments the next week. And then you have these three safety packages that I've never seen. I'm going to have to take their word for it because, like you said, they didn't have the luxury last year. And it's true, they didn't, to play more than two safeties at a time. I sure would like to see some of these creative ideas coming out of Todd Bowles. He's supposed to be pretty smart on the defensive side of the ball. So if there's a year to employ these kind of extra packages, this is the year now.
Well, you know what? You can tell Bowles is having, I don't know if he's having more say compared to the past 2 years, but he's getting his guys. I mean, I don't know if it was up to Mike McCagnon solely, I don't know if he'd be taking two safeties in the first two rounds, given all the needs this team has. But I mean, yeah, I think it's good to not limit players to one box or one role, especially on defense where parts are just so interchangeable now. And, the offenses are just trying to create as many mismatches as possible. I think it's good to have those versatility, that type of versatility. And that's what a lot of scouts and pundits and analysts say about Marcus Maye. He's a versatile player. He can play in multiple schemes. He can cover. He can step up in the running game. And I think the Jets are looking for guys who, they can do a lot of things and they have this sort of nasty physical attitude about them. And that's a perfect segue to the Jets' third-round pick, Darius Stewart, wide receiver from Alabama. Another guy who we didn't get on our future Jets profile, but just in watching a couple of games from his last season with the Crimson Tide, he's a missile of energy, man. I mean, this guy, when he has the ball in his hands, he is a handful. He can run right past you. He'll run right through you, and that's what I think the Jets love about him. He's got good, secure hands. The one thing he needs to work on a little bit is his route running ability. He also needs to work on using his hips to sell his cuts and, sell his cuts a little bit more. But I really, really like the kid. I wrote the grade on this one, and I gave it a B, being a little conservative because we don't quite know what his role in the offense is going to be. But Adam, what grade do you give this Darius Stewart pick?
I'm on the fence on this pick as well. I'm starting to watch more tape on Darius Stewart, and it's funny you mentioned somebody else we didn't really have on our radar. We spent a couple of months, the four of us, doing as many scouting reports on potential Jets picks as four part-timers can really churn out. And then even as recently as Friday morning, we published a predictions post thinking, okay, this is what the Jets we officially predict, I and you and Max, go second round, third round, the first pick, third round, the second pick, the one they traded out of course. And none of us had either Marcus Maye or Darius Stewart. In fact, neither of us had any safeties or wide receivers. And I was surprised that the Jets went with a wide receiver. As far as grading Stewart, right now I'm going to stick to a B- because I think that the Jets' young receivers that they brought in last year, particularly guys like Robbie Anderson and Sharon Peak, don't get enough credit, especially these analysts, the national analysts you see on NFL Network, who are all predicting, the Jets really should go for a receiver second round. They should be looking at Juju Smith-Schuster, and here's why. Well, just because the Jets decided not to, to cut Brandon Marshall, doesn't mean that there's a gaping need at receiver, because Quarterback was part of the problem as far as the receiving game, and Eric Decker getting injured was part of the problem. But with Decker coming back, Quincy Nunwa had a very good year. And Robbie Anderson showed himself to be an NFL player, a guy who went undrafted, really earned a spot on the team. Sharon Peak fighting for a spot on the team. I wonder what the pick of Stewart means for Devin Smith's future. He has had very little opportunity to play in his first 2 years due to injury, which, again, it's out of people's control sometimes, and it's unfortunate. But to me, the pick of Stewart is good that they at least focused on an offensive need after going back-to-back safeties. So that's good. And it just makes me wonder if the window of opportunity is continuing to shrink and shrink for Devin Smith.
Yeah, so Devin Smith, in his 2 professional seasons, a 2015 second-round pick. He was Mike Magnin's first second-round pick. His first actual pick, if you consider that Leonard Williams kind of fell into his lap. He's played in 14 career games. He's made 3 starts. All of them came in 2015. He has 10 receptions, 9 of which came in 2015, 135 yards, 115 of which came in 2015, and his 1 touchdown came 2 seasons ago too. He played in only 4 games last year. He was limited by the knee injury. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's you think about, well, who might have just lost a roster spot because of Ardarius Stewart. And Devin Smith's the guy who jumps up into my mind just because it doesn't look like it's panning out. I mean, he's heading on a downward trajectory, and as a third-year player, that's the opposite of what you want, especially in a second-round pick. The other guy could be Jalen Marshall. He's facing a 4-game suspension. I know some fans liked him. He was an undrafted free agent who kind of caught on. But really, what does he present you? He's got decent hands. He has crazy bad issues with fumbling the football. And Ardarius Stewart can return kicks. So, I mean, he's kind of replacing Marshall in that sense. So I could see either Devin Smith or Jalen Marshall being the guy sort of phased out because Ardarius Stewart's going to make this roster.
Something I want to say about Stewart that in my research of him so far since last night, in his draft profile on NFL.com that Lance Zierlein wrote all of these, an AFC executive told Zierlein about Ardarius Stewart that he's got a dog mindset, as in a canine, a DOG dog mindset, and just kind of launches into everything he does. And I think last night Stewart said that he's ready to bring something like a bundle of awesomeness.
Yeah, a bunch of awesome, or a load of awesomeness or something. I'll look up the quote really quick, but
sounds like he'd be kind of a zany guy, might be entertaining. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I just wonder what other positions the Jets are going to try and fill with their 6 picks today. And we should talk about this because the Jets traded back twice yesterday. So especially, I got home from work and I'm staying up waiting for pick 107. We're going to wrap up the draft, and then I see a message. Oh, Jets traded back again.
Oops.
Okay, so they traded twice. Let's go over this really quick. They traded back in the 3rd round, both of their 3rd round picks. They traded back 9 spots with the Vikings and picked up the Vikings' 5th rounder.
Yes.
And then they traded out of the last pick in the 3rd round, which was their compensatory pick. And before this year, compensatory picks were not tradable, but now they are because they changed the rule on that. Tampa moved into that pick to get Kendall Beckwith. The Jets picked up the Bucs' 4th rounder, and the Jets were not going into this draft originally with a 4th rounder because they traded it with Washington to move up last year and draft Brandon Shell. So now the Jets get the 4th rounder and the Buccaneers' 6th rounder. So they picked up 3 more day 3 picks by trading back twice in the 3rd round.
And that's what Jets fans want. I mean, that's what, you go on the, social media, and that's all people want Matt Gagnon to do. Trade back. I wrote in the 1st round that would be the perfect scenario if they traded back. It's certainly not a bad thing in the, later rounds either. The Jets have a lot of capital to work with today. It could be a really busy day for us, day 3. My sense is that the Jets I think McGagnon's either seeing a player he likes, but he wants to take him a little bit later, or, he's going to maybe make a trade. I could see him, because, you look at the way these picks play out. He's got the 4th round pick, 125, and then his 5th round picks are 10 picks apart from each other. So he's got 150, and then the Vikings had 160. And he's also got he's only got 13 picks in between his 6th round selection. So in the 6th round, he starts at pick number 7, and then pick 204, and then they pick only 20 picks later in the 7th round at 224. So they have a lot of picks, and they're not very far apart from each other. So I could see McGagnon maybe making a move to get up, because the 4th round pick's only the 19th selection in the round. So they're in the middle of the 4th round, back into the 4th round. I have a sense McGagnon's going to make a move where he trades up back into the top of the 4th round, where I feel like he wants to be, and maybe take a player of need or someone who they really like on their board. My general sense is that McGagnon's seeing more depth and more players that are higher up on his board falling than he anticipated. So I think that explains why they said they kind of punted on pick 107, and why they were confident that they could probably get a guy like Ardarius Stewart 9 picks later in the 3rd round. So that's what I sense. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets made a move right out of the gates on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, wherever you are, that involves that 4th round pick where they swap it with whoever they trade with, and then I think they package either a 5th or 6th to move up. So that's what I think is going to happen. We'll see if it does, and if the Jets have 6 picks on day 3 and they use them all, that's not the worst thing either. The Jets need a lot more. They need more talented players, and if McGagnon can hit a couple of home runs in these 6 picks, I mean, I feel like all he has to do is go maybe 2 or 3 for 6, and it's a pretty successful day 3.
Who do you think, if they do package some of these picks and move up to the beginning of the 4th round, who do you think they might be getting? Do you think that, dare I say, a quarterback like Nathan Peterman has slipped into the 4th round, the guy out of Pitt? There's Joshua Dobbs, a lot of people are excited about. I don't know. Do you think a quarterback could be in play?
You know what? I think the Jets are not taking a quarterback. I found it interesting how there were rumors surfacing that they were interested in DeShone Kizer, who ended up going
to the Browns.
Middle of the 2nd round to the Browns. So that's a very, very interesting pick.
Good draft.
They've addressed the wide receiver position. I could see them maybe going for a cornerback. The best names available include Cameron Sutton, Shaquille Griffin. I don't know if NFL.com updated these, because I know guys like Jordan Lewis.
Sutton was drafted.
Yeah, I don't know if they've updated this since, but like they have guys like Cordrea Tankersley, Jordan Lewis not picked. But they could go a cornerback in general. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. So here's some of the best cornerback prospects available very quickly. DeMonte Kazee from San Diego State. Corn Elder. That's another great. That's an outstanding name.
I think so too. I wish I had discovered him before I discovered Forrest Lamp, because I focused all my energy this offseason on Forrest Lamp. But Corn Elder is a fantastic.
Corn Elder from Miami. Yeah. Howard Wilson, Houston. William Likely, a Maryland guy. Channing Stribling, if you recognize that Big Ten name, he's from Michigan. Another Michigan guy, Jeremy Clark. Jalen Myrick, who's a really, really fast corner out of Minnesota. So there's some options there. I think a lot of people want the Jets to take Michigan tight end Jake Butt. He's been a popular name on Twitter. Maybe they could go a tight end. I could see them trading up to get that.
Yeah.
I do think today they have to address 3 positions. I think they have to get a tight end. I think they have to get an offensive lineman, and I think they need to get a cornerback.
I'm pretty much lockstep with you there. I agree completely. I think want to leave you guys with a couple of names before we wrap up. Kazee is somebody we should be watching for Jets management to be interested in. He's graded sort of in a 4th round, 5th round area, still on the board, one of the best corners on the board. He's from San Diego State. He's pretty good collegiate career, and the Jets did have a private visit with Kazee, so that's something to consider in the corners. I agree. I'm one of those guys. Sign me up for Jake Butt. This guy was going to be a 1st round pick before he got hurt in the bowl game, and here he is now falling into the 4th round. One other tight end that I've read a little bit about and like a lot in the top of the tight ends available is Bucky Hodges from Virginia Tech, 6'6".
Big dude.
Yeah, huge, bigger than Butt even.
Big dude, but he might be a lug, so we'll see.
After Hodges and Butt, the tight end class really does dip off. A lot of the good ones went yesterday. A lot of the good, like Adam Shaheen and Gerald Everett, went yesterday. So they need some of those. And then offensive tackles, I do like Julian Davenport from Bucknell. Very big, 6'6", 315 prospect. And Adam Bisnawadi is somebody else I wrote about out of Pittsburgh. These guys can be developmental projects that you've got 1 or 2 years probably out of Kelvin Beachum. He's injury prone. He's not the future. And I really don't think Ben Ijalana is a future starter either. Maybe you're getting something out of Brandon Shell, But I agree that the Jets need to look at O-line too, specifically tackle, like these couple of guys that are still around. I think that they will package some picks up and move up in the fourth. That would be very interesting to see.
I think that's got to happen, and it's just a matter of projecting which guy McGagnon's going for. I think he's got a guy, and I just have a feeling he has a guy in mind, and it might be a quarterback. Real quick, couple of other offensive linemen I'd like to name who I've either written about or know about. Dorian Johnson, another Pitt guy. He'll probably be gone pretty early in this round, but if he falls, could be a good offensive guard, depth guard option. Maybe a guy who can translate over to tackle. Another guy who's interesting is Roderick Johnson from Florida State, a bit more of a bigger name than Adam Bisnawadi, but he's a 6'7", 298-pound tackle. I do think the Jets need to address offensive tackle at some point, even if it's just a guy who can, just be a body to develop and be an insurance policy, but try and find a pro-ready tackle at least, even if he's a backup. Should we talk about the quarterbacks at least a little bit?
I guess
there's
just
not much available.
We haven't been very correct on things since yesterday. Or actually,
no, I've been terrible. I mean, I had the Jets taking Adam Shaheen in the second round, and I think he did go in the second round of the Bears, but I was way off. Well, the quarterbacks that are still available, a guy I really like, Nathan Peterman from Pittsburgh. He is probably the most pro-ready prospect of the bunch. He just doesn't have incredible arm talent. Miami's Brad Kaya, a guy who was, I think in October was viewed as one of the three best quarterbacks in this class, and he has completely fallen off the grid. A bit of a wild card, Chad Kelly, lots of off-field baggage, lots of talent to go with it. Josh Dobbs, a guy who really never impressed me in college, who a lot of people are sort of taking a liking to in the scouting / media world. I don't really get the Josh Dobbs hype. I mean, he's a good kid. He's really, really smart. He's like an engineer. Didn't think he was that great of a quarterback. And then guys like Gerard Evans from Virginia Tech, more of a mobile quarterback. Cooper Rush from Central Michigan, I've heard a little bit of buzz about. Any quarterbacks that you think might be worth a flyer here, Adam?
If the Jets really feel compelled and must take somebody, because that just really sets you up for the 4-quarterback roster again, unless you want to cut Petty.
Practice squad, someone too. The rookie could go on the squad.
Yeah, if you want to spend a 6th or 7th rounder and just have somebody be on the practice squad, try out Chad Kelly. There's no guarantee he's got to have a roster spot. He is talented. If the main question and knock on that guy is personality stuff, you can just give him a tryout. Essentially, a 6th rounder, 7th rounder really equates to a tryout for the summer, and you don't have to keep a guy like that. So if he turns out to actually display a ton of talent and he stays in line with whatever personality defects he's knocked with at this point, maybe you do keep him.
Yeah, and considering if the Jets keep all 6 of these picks, you're not going to address need positions with every one of them. If they view Chad Kelly as at number 204 or 191 as their best option on the board, I don't hate it. These are lottery tickets once you get into the 6th round. So you take a flyer on a guy, put him on the practice squad, see how he develops. I mean, maybe next year he makes Bryce Petty replaceable. And you see where it goes. But no, there's not a quarterback who really jumps out to me as slamming the table for the Jets to get. I think next year's class will be the class to really go get your quarterback. And I think that's what the Jets might be setting themselves up for. I don't see them getting a quarterback in this draft unless they take a flyer on somebody. And I think they're really playing their hand for 2018 where they can find that franchise guy. And I like the strategy. I think it's good. I've really been emphasizing this. I think it's the best strategy in today's NFL is to build your roster up around the quarterback and then find the guy. And you might not find, from year to year, the prospects may vary in terms of how good they are, how pro-ready they are. But if you build that roster up, if you spend that time to make the roster better around the quarterback, your percentage of hitting on the quarterback, regardless of the prospect, is going to be higher. So I like what the Jets have done so far. A lot of work left to do, and it'll be a very interesting day 3. I think we both have a sense there's going to be a trade at some point, a trade up, but maybe McGagnon just wants to take some lottery tickets with him today and scratch them off and see where they go. So we're going to have plenty of day 3 content for you. It should be an interesting day. It probably will be like a 12-hour day knowing the way the NFL draft works, but the picks go much quicker in rounds 4 through 7. So it should be fun. Be sure to follow us all day long at New York Jet Fuel on Twitter. You can follow Adam at Adam_Zielonka. You can follow me at Real Matt Barbato. And stay plugged into nyjetfuel.com today. Spend your Saturday afternoon with us. We will keep you company, and we'll give you some good Jets news too and analysis. So thanks very much for watching or listening. And this has been a Jet Fuel podcast.